Reading Myanmar Alphabet Part 1. I remember when I first started to learn the alphabet and tried for the first time to locate letters on a page I'd printed out. I couldn't find a single one until my wife showed me that I was holding the page upside down. But in time I did learn how to read. I also know several others who have learned to read as well. And today there are more resources than ever to help you. The first place to start is to learn the alphabet. The internet has some good resources, including a number of videos, usually hosted by native speakers. Now, I've tried to put together a series of lessons in a way that made sense to me as an English speaker. Your main goal is probably the same as mine was, to learn how to read the language. With that in mind, I've tried to streamline the lessons. What do I mean by that? Well, for example, when learning the alphabet, there's no need to learn the names of all the letters. Nor is there a need to memorize them in order. We'll just focus on how to read them. Later, you're going to learn about vowels, special symbols, and tonal symbols, and there's a lot of them. Again, there's no need to learn the name of each. I'm only going to give you what you need to know to be able to read. So I've divided the alphabet into two lessons. With classes in the past, I've suggested trying to learn consonants in groups of 5. The alphabet is the foundation of reading, so devote time and effort to this first step in learning to read. Okay, one additional note. It's important to listen carefully when you're learning a new language. There's going to be sounds or combinations of sounds you have not heard before. And when that happens, your brain gets a little confused. It tries to take the sounds it's hearing and turn them into something it already knows. After all, it's been a lifetime learning all the subtleties of your first language. So, to help to retrain it, a good set of headphones or earbuds are absolutely essential. So now that all that's out of the way, let's get started with some alphabet basics. Here's a listing of the 33 consonants of the Myanmar language. You're often going to see it in a chart like this one. It's laid out like this in order to group consonants with similar sounds together. Now, I know 33 letters seems like a lot to learn, especially since these don't even include the vowels. But there is some good news. First of all, there are not 33 different sounds. Several of the consonants have identical or a nearly identical sound. Several on this list are seldom or rarely used. There's also no capitalization to learn, nor are you going to see them italicized. Lastly, remember there's just no need to learn the names of the letters. Just learn the sound they make. Now, before we begin with the first two letters, let's review some methods that have helped individuals to memorize these letters. Flashcards, probably the most widely used tool for memorization. Whether you use paper index cards or electronic apps, the key to success is repetition and routine. For learning the alphabet, I like this method the best. But learning the Myanmar script, here's one of the challenges you're going to face. When you write out how to pronounce the letter on the back of your flashcard, you're going to need a good method of putting it into English letters, something you can understand. The thing is, there's no universal method of doing that. The JW Language app uses one system. The Paiboon Publishing Dictionary, used by many, uses another system. Some use their own system. The key is find what makes the most sense to you and stick with that. A lot of people have found it helpful to practice writing the letters, and there's been some research to show that this is an effective memory aid. If you're going to try that, I recommend getting an alphabet writing notebook, the kind that children use when they're learning to write the alphabet. The page will look something like this. The big format and 3 lines will be helpful. It's what I used. Another helpful exercise is to use printed pages to locate and mark one or more of the consonants as you learn them. Now, in this exercise, it's helpful if you can increase the size of the text. I really like this exercise. It's especially fun in the beginning. It helps you feel like you're really making progress. Of course, for me, I was just happy to learn which way to hold the page. Okay, so let's get started with our first two consonants. Okay, I'm going to highlight the position of the letters on the alphabet chart as we cover each set. These are the first two on the chart, and they both have a K sound, but they're pronounced a little bit differently. Now let's see if you can tell the difference. Here's the first. It's pronounced ga, ga, ga. Now listen as I pronounce the next one. Ka, ka, ka. It might be difficult to tell the difference at first. The first has a softer sound. Honestly, sometimes it sounds like a G. So to understand what's going on, we need to talk about something that's called aspiration. This means that you're going to breathe out heavily while making the consonant sound. Here's a trick that many have found helpful to learn aspiration. Hold the open palm of your hand 2 to 3 inches directly in front of your mouth. When you pronounce the first letter, you should feel little to no air on your palm. But when pronouncing the aspirated letter, the K in this case, you'll feel a good amount of air. Now that method's going to help with several other consonants on our list. And one other thing, you're going to notice that all of the consonants are going to automatically be giving a short A vowel sound associated with it. It will always sound like ah, ah. Okay, let's move on. Okay, these two letters really do have a G sound, and their sound is the same. So the first sounds like ga, 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 and the second is the same. That second is also very rarely used. Okay, now we skipped a letter, and you'll see why in a few minutes. But these letters both have the S sound. Now here's the first. It's sa, sa, sa. This is not aspirated, so remember, with the palm of your hand in front of your mouth, you should feel little if any air. Next is the letter sa, sa, sa. Now you should feel air on your palm as it is aspirated. Both of these letters have the same Z sound. So the first and the second both sound the same. They're za, za, za. Now I've grouped these two letters together because they have similar sounds, but there's a very big difference that makes them perhaps the most difficult for English learners to pronounce. Let's start with the first. It sounds like this. Nga, nga, nga. Many words begin with or include this sound in Myanmar. The thing is, we don't have any words in English I'm aware of that start with this sound, but we do pronounce this sound at the end of words. Words like ring, sang, wrong. So here's a trick that's helped some master this sound. Begin by saying the word sing, and then add an ah sound at the end. It'll sound something like this. Sing-a, sing-a, sing-a. Next, start to drop off the SI sound at the beginning of the word. Sing-a, sing-a, nga, nga, nga. Okay, this will probably take some time to master. Your tongue and mouth really have to be trained through a lot of repetition. So again, this letter sounds like this. Nga, nga, nga. Okay, now the second letter is pronounced like this. Nya, nya, nya. Again, we don't use that sound in the beginning of words, but we do find it in the middle of words like onion and canyon. Now this is not as difficult to pronounce as the first letter, but what I often find is that people start to mix the two together so that one or both start to sound like nya, nya, nya. And that's not correct. So again, that second letter is pronounced nya, nya, nya. Both of these letters have a T sound, but again, aspiration makes them different. So the first sounds like this. Da, 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 da. The second sounds like this. Ta, ta, ta. As you say it, do you feel the air on the palm of your hand? You should. That is, if it's still in front of your mouth. Okay, these two letters are pronounced the same with the D sound. Da, da, da. Now, here are the last two letters in part 1. They also have the same sound and are pronounced na, na, na. You'll notice the second letter has two written forms. It's the only consonant that does. It doesn't affect the sound it makes. You'll learn why this second form is needed in a later lesson. So that represents about half the letters of the alphabet. We'll cover the rest in the next lesson.